Aries, Ashe, Obatula, Ashe, Nila Hotep, Ashe, Anu, Ashe, Ptah, Ashe, Apollo, Ashe, Doth, Ashe, Zaka, Ashe, Shango, Ashe, Makali, Ashe.
Back here in Atlanta, where it used to be once a month, came up to be once every other month, then it went to once every 3 months, and now, you know, shoot, I think it was 6 months and all, you know. But fortunately, I was doing traveling and stuff like that and all. It's just that I just couldn't stand in front of people face like the familiars and tell them the same stuff that we had talked about before. You know, so that means when you got up to a certain level of consciousness, then, you know, it was basically coming in and giving you my ongoing research and report. Fortunately, we got a lot of since then it's given away to a lot of new people that's come by the way. One aspect is the breakdown of several other groups, and I don't know whether that's good or bad, you know, but then people go their own way and all that. Take, for instance, coming out of certain groups might be good and all, because it means that in actuality you're supposed to find your way and do your own research at this particular time. So the groups are good at first to get people started and stuff, because you do need a guide to try to get, you know. But after a while, they can become, you know, stagnant and detrimental. And so the good part about it is you're supposed to go to other heights as far as checking out other things in the aspect of your own research, or people who are giving out that type of information to further your research. That's why we say again, that's where the books and all that come into play. As you see, at this particular time, this is the main thing going is these books and your own research and being your own God, being your own God and stuff. So that's as we talked about before. So we got a lot of good things going on the eve of the country doing things, but then again, on the other hand, they're not. We know now that they're not running anything. Like, take for instance, I had over 50 new deities come to the planet since 2001, and you heard me talk about them. And recently, I had to do a veve for my oldest brother. He had dealing with the dead Negroes and all. He had his own insurance company. When I asked the spirits to do what type of ritual, the one that stepped through was Kakumbo, which is one of the newer entities that came back in around 2001. So in this particular case, I had to draw a veve, and I've had these names for 2001, but all of a sudden I had to draw a veve for Kakumbo, which is a signature or a symbol. So, which only took a few minutes, because basically I visioned it in, you know, I look at the outline of the veves from Voodoo and Apollo, and then vision the one in my head, and then basically it only took a few minutes to draw it, but I realized after all of the 50, I got to draw at least 50 veves, or maybe at least maybe 21 veves to go with these new entities. So recently I found out that's a task I'm going to have to undertake. And it's real easy, because I'm an artist, and like I said, I drew this in less than 10 minutes. So, I mean, as far as the concept, so it's really no problem. But it's just, I say that to say that this thing is ongoing as far as the energy and the way things are going. Like, take for instance, the goddess Lakshmi has basically taken over in a whole lot of things. And Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity. So in this particular case, the prosperity a lot of times might not be monetary, but it has things to meet its end, and ends being met. This is one of the pictures of the goddess Lakshmi. As you can see, she's not a slow leak in the look department and all, you know, and all. You can tell with them hips and stuff, that ain't nothing but a sister. This is an ancient one. This is in the Louvre in France. Louvre in France. And so what we're finding out now, if you adorn yourself with these types of images, which I'll be giving you two other ones, you can align yourself with a certain amount of prosperity and certain things that these gods have to offer. In this particular case, this is the East Indian equivalent of Mayat. So she's like the end result New Age deity, although she comes from the lotus and she's an older goddess, but it's the older goddess that has to come new, and it's called the new Venus. And so in this particular case, we go by and say, well, there's so many pantheons, how do we know which one? We go by the ones who fucking just show up. So she showed up. And so as a result, we want people to get some of these. And so what I had to do is I had to find the right engraving and stuff. A lot of the statues were good, but it wasn't enough to make into a poster print. And so I had to get the right engraving and stuff. And I had to go to a rare book on Satan, believe it or not, to get this particular thing. And I don't know the reason why he put it in that book. It's supposed to be explaining something else. It might be explaining the opposite of prosperity. And because she has a goddess called Lakshmi, which is the dark side, and which is the dark side, which might not necessarily be negative. But nevertheless, I had to go to a book, a rare out-of-print book, to find this, to find this and all. And pretty much, you know, with the hips and the full chest and all, I guess this was mine of choice. Most of this, because this is an ancient one, which they didn't have any problem expressing sexuality. The newer ones, they have her covered up. They have her basically covered up in a dress. So this was an ancient one that comes off these particular temples. I have another book here that would show the ancient forms of these particular deities. I'm going to see if I can find a real good, sexy one of these deities. And it's a whole temple in India that, you know, here's sister right here. She all in the arms of her man, you see. So this is far cry from anything that modern religion would give, which celebrates the primal aspect. Here's another figure of gods and goddesses embracing, if you can actually see it. This is from a temple in India. So this particular statue of Lakshmi was done around that same time. So this is one that I feel, because it is erotic in a certain way, it gives off a lot more energy. You see what I'm saying? It gives off a lot more energy. So it's almost like the return of something. We fell from a matriarchal age where sexuality was a part of spirituality. Then it was suppressed in the patriarchal age, and now the return is a form of the same sexuality. And so, plus again, we asked which one would she want for us to reproduce for the people, and she said this one. So here goes again. She, you know, I'm quite sure, you know, any woman would like to see herself in her most beautiful form to be represented. You know what I'm saying? So she ain't like no other sister. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you say, oh, my hair ain't right on that picture. And so this is very interesting. And I'll give you some other things. Basically, what we're trying to do, I talked about the Lakshmi drops the last time, and I ain't been able to get none since because motherfuckers had a run on the damn store. I told them 7 under, and they had a run on the store and all. So, but I was telling you about get the Lakshmi drops and also burn the Lakshmi drops for prosperity. But she came through recently and said lotus oil is one. Also, lotus oil. There's another one. I think there's another instance. Is it Spirit Guide? Spirit Guide is one with her on the box, on the cover of the box, which is this actual statue in gold, which is the actual statue in gold. So what I'm trying to say here is what we're doing now, other than years past, we're going and we're setting up certain things for certain magical things that you can actually use hands-on. And this is a particular piece that you can basically get and adorn your wall with. adorn your wall with. If you want to make an actual altar, this would be a great picture also to do that. So she inspired me to go and do that, as well as I got another piece that I'm going to get into in a few minutes. I got another piece that I'm going to show you in a few minutes that is very pertinent for prosperity, for romance, and just about anything that you want to deal with in this particular age of the coming of Venus. So this same Lakshmi Venus figure is the same figure that is in Hemmitt as Het. And all this has the 108 vibration, which is the return of the primordial heart. If you look on Sister Delbra's website at Sirius Times, she has a 108 oracle that she launched a couple of months ago. And so as a result, it's interesting because we've been dealing with this 108 for about 5 years now. She tells the story how the spirit came to her in Belgium and told her that her number was 108. And basically it ended up being, holding true, because a lot of the information that I've researched since then, 108 is a very key number, which is actually 9. But one of the books, that book? Genesis, and it shows that 108 is Venus, Aphrodite, Ishtar, Inanna, and even Aset, or what is called New Isis, which is very interesting here because I have another book, that book called Polaria, which for some reason I started telling the people about the book, and all of a sudden it just mysteriously went out of print, which is a very advanced book. And they talk about 108, the primordial heart chakra. So they're talking about this primal force returning, and which is key of this particular number because it has something to do with Venus. Because every last one of the gods that line up under 108 in the Genesis book ended up being a form of Venus, or the goddess of love. So Urzuli, the ones that didn't make the list, Urzuli would be a part of those, one of those particular ones too, as well as Lakshmi. And in Yoruba, it would be Yeminya, more so than Oshun. Most people think that Oshun would be the goddess of love, but in this particular case, it has to have the great mother aspect of the primordial great mother, which would be a form of Olokun and Yeminya, Big Mama. So as a result, you still have that 108 context. And in this particular case, Lakshmi has 108 names. And as Sister Deborah has researched and found out that all of the East Indian gods have 108 names. So in this particular case, it's more fitting, so we've named the actual lecture the 108 Gate. And so what is the 108 Gate? The 108 Gate is simply the return of the Venus energy that we've been talking about, which is most pertinent, which was prophesied in this particular book, Amor and Psyche, that I've been telling people to get. Amor and Psyche, and read the Psyche story, and then go into the commentary of Eric Neumann, or Neumann, 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 Eric Neumann, Newman, Kimberly pronounced it Neumann, so I guess, she's into the language and stuff. So it's called Amor and Psyche, in the development of the feminine. And they talk about a new Venus coming to the planet. So with this Venus transient thing that went down on the 6th of June, that represented that particular energy that came back to the planet, which we will give you some characteristics that are starting to happen. And you will basically, when I give the characteristics, you will pretty much see that even in your life as you go on right now, certain things started happening. It's because of this Venus return, and all. So that's very key at this particular time. I had to, like I said the last time, in my endeavor, certain goddess had to come into my sphere, and that's the sister Linda Babylonia, which is interesting because when we first hooked into this entity Babylonia came, which is also a return of the goddess Babylon that Crawley saw in a vision in 1918 or 1919 recorded in his works, The Vision and the Voice, and he talked about this entity Babylon. It's interesting because even in that part, once he located this deity, he said, she's Venus. So we're still talking that type of energy. You can, Wesley, you can put the camera on her and expose her. She told me not to do it and all, but of course I lied and stuff. I wouldn't tell her to go and dress up like that and put on all that East Indian royal shit that she got on and not have the cameras capture her ass. So I kind of fooled on that one and all. Of course I lied and all. I keep trying to tell women that men understand the 7 liberal arts. We can use lying as a tool. It's a tool, and sisters never been able to catch on to this type thing here and all that. It is a tool coming out of the mystery system. You know what I'm saying? Which is actually good. I was messing with this sister about 2 years ago, and I rode out somewhere, and I told her this lie, just to say things, it's all cool. I told her I went someplace, so she went and called my brother. So when I got home, I told her to lie, and got caught in the lie, and so she was saying, no, I done called your brother. I'm like, well, see, that's where you fucked up. Because I made the lie up to save your feelings. You see what I'm saying? And all. So it was an actual safeguard for her. Since she decided she wanted to expose the damn thing, then I said, well, now in that case, you got to take the, the ass whipping or whatever, emotional ass whipping and stuff that I lied to you and all that, But anyway, it's very interesting because she used to hang out at an East Indian temple in D.C. because she's from D.C. And she said that the people couldn't speak a bit of English. But she used to go there and they used to vibe for hours and they would cook her food and they would, in so many words, connect with her, and they couldn't speak a bit of English and stuff, but yet she could vibe with these East Indian people. Which is interesting because I never met no East Indian people that ever said 4 words to a motherfucker, basically. The brother, if you haven't seen the tape, haven't had the opportunity to see the tape, Africans in Asia by Eugene Adams, I would suggest you pick it up. I suggest you pick it up. It's available through Sirius Times also, which shows you the African origins in Asia, but it gives a bit of a twist on the story, because we've had a lot of that information with Runoko Rashidi and Ivan Van Sertima's book, African Presence in Asia in the early 90s. But this particular book goes into a prophecy of black people going into slavery, and they got these black people on the temple walls and all of that. Linda, did you bring the pictures or you left them? Yeah, because another brother actually gave us some pictures. Gave us some pictures of black people on the temple walls with big lips in Vietnam. So we got them in Vietnam, they got them in China. I'll just give you some insights. Here's a book called Carnal Alchemy, which was given to me this past weekend. I did a conference up in New York. And I know the guy, Stephen Flowers. I had several of his books. He got a book called Lord of the Left-Hand Path. And apparently that stuff is a little too risky for the regular book company. So this Luna, L-U-N-A, Raven, R-E-V-E-N press out of Smithville, Texas. You have to write and get a catalog from them to get their books. It's Luna Ravens Press, P.O. Box 557, Smithville, Texas, 78957. 78957, Smithville, Texas, Luna, L-U-N-A, Raven, R-A-V-E-N Press. And they have a lot of the books. There's a book called The Seven Faces of Darkness that came out about 1996 and 1997 on ancient Typhonian magic. Well, here's a book, Carnal Alchemy, dealing with some real racy stuff. We'll get in deep into this type of information. But this is Crystal Dawn and Stephen Flowers. Stephen Flowers wrote another book called Lords of the Left-Hand Path. And in that book, he said that the old Nick, which you get St. Nick, is nothing but the Moor. So they documented that this is the Moor, the St. Nicholas, Santa Claus is nothing but their rendition of celebrating the Moor, who brought gifts to Europe. You see what I'm saying? Who brought gifts to Europe. I said it in a lecture, and then I found it in a book, and it was Santa Claus. So we do know that. And I was looking at this one because when I got the book, it turned to the page and it said, here's a book called The Practice of the Ancient Turkish Freemasons. I said, oh shit, Turkey, Freemason, that ain't nothing but the Moors. But see, these are the play on words. It goes on to say that they talk about this. They said that it's interesting because the original book produces the founder of the infamous Thule Society of pre-war Germany. That's another thing to give you the one person, and you point at that. It's like the Bush thing that you caught up in. You know what I'm saying? The Bush thing is a scapegoat thing. He's the trickster, the scapegoat. It's in a movie called My Fellow Americans. With My Fellow Americans with not Joe Pesci. What's the guy that used to play Maverick? James Garner and what's the other guy that played in the original the movie, the original? Jack Lemmon. James Garner and Jack Lemmon. And in there they had a figure at this particular time. It's supposed to be a dumb Dan Quayle figure. And nobody could figure out why these two presidents was running for their lives, about to get killed. And they was trying to kill them the whole movie. They was ex-presidents. And it was running from, and there was a secret society or a secret mission to kill them. And nobody could figure it out. And it ended up being the Dan Quayle figure, who was brilliant. Damn near a scientist, but was cloaking himself under this stupid act. That's called the scapegoat clause. And that's a court gesture, which is a form of elegba in West Africa, or some type of Tahuti or Anubis in Kemet. And you fall for it thinking that this person is dumb and stupid. Well, you see what I'm saying? And that's a form of trickery, as I don't want to make up no words, like the Nation of Islam, tricknology. And Linda got one called trickeration. God damn, trickeration on your ass. So, so they put these images out here, and you follow the image, and it's somewhat bad, or the world ain't that bad. This was just one person that is this evil antichrist, you know what I'm saying, that went bad. Meanwhile, you don't put the finger on these secret societies. That's their decoy figure. So that's the same thing that's happening with the Bush thing. It's a decoy figure, which is very clever that you don't fall for the okey doke, because we're going to go into this tonight, because this is the eve of Homeland Security, and we're going to show you some things on how they're lining it all up. How they're lining it all up and stuff like that. So the terrorist is going to be down low culture. It's going to be rap culture. And we're going to go into this thing, these cultures that they're coming out with. So you got to understand the science on how this thing is going on. But in this particular part here, the book, The Practice of the Ancient Turkish Freemason, now here it is. If you don't know knowledge, information of your history, you won't know. It says, this book contains the understanding of the esoteric Islam as well as the medieval alchemy. Anytime you get that word medieval, what is that? That's Moors. Medieval alchemy. Well, how did you know? Medieval alchemy, how do these people get this alchemy? So it says medieval alchemy. Or Sufism. In the book, Ernest Scott's book, he talks about the Sufis in Spain, but the word Sufi means what? Woolly-haired one. So that's just another word for Moor. So they can take this word out of the English language, you see what I'm saying, out of world language, or world definition, they would take this Moor thing out. You don't hear nothing on the Moors. You see what I'm saying? And they would put stuff like the Sufis, the Sufis, that of the Baktishi sect of Turkey. So here's a Moorish sect called the B-A-K-T-A-S-H-I, Baktashi sect, a secret a sect of Turkey into which the author was initiated at the first part of the century. This guy who was the founder of the Thule Society. So here it is, just in one paragraph. Here's the whole thing on Moorish science put back together. So we just wanted to show you how these things go on. We got a lot of information, a lot of new books. There was a kind of standstill. These books were real popular in the 90s. A lot of good information came out, and in the early 2000s, it got kind of weak and all. And then all of a sudden, about a year ago, it started coming back around. A lot of books started coming back out. or not only that, new books that was written that was credible, or stuff that is worth buying. That is worth buying. There's a lot of good stuff out here, so we're going to deal with that also. So let's get the libations going. And part of my prosperity is you all need to come and purchase some of this shit. Come the form of, and I'm going to explain what this stuff is when we have the break, especially this Temple of Dendera, which is very key, which is very key, and I'll show you some things that happened to us. And I'll go into this in a few minutes that happened to us this recently. So we have that. We still have the king, the king from Sudan, and a little more information on the queen. Let's see where the queen is. The queen from Ethiopia that I talked about. The queen from Ethiopia, which is also a form of Venus. All this Venus stuff, 108, keeps coming up. You see what I'm saying? So this is all relevant. So we want the people that didn't get a hold of this to take these home. We can still make these things available, even if we sell out tonight, because I'm based here, so it's no problem. The what? Well, all of that. The Rose. The secret, the Rosicrucian was all of that. The Rosicrucians, York Rite, Scottish Rite, Knights Templar, Knights of Malta, all of these particular secret societies that somehow mysteriously appeared in Europe is basically nothing but what was preserved from the Moors being there. So in so many words, these secret societies first had their start in these 16 universities, just like you would go in and pledge Kappa, or pledge Alpha, aka Delta. These secret societies had their start just like that. That's how they got inducted. And later on, even the Illuminati was a spiritual secret society that later on became, a form of world domination. So these are things. Now, this is very interesting. Well, since this came up, I guess it's fitting to tell you this story now. And then we'll go into after this, we're going to go into the libations. I did anybody saw the Love tape? The Mysteries of Babylonia and Love? It's a tape that you need to get, Volume 1. We just did Volume 2 in New York. And a whole bunch of guys showed up, so we're going to call this Babylonia, the Goddess of Love, and the Male Presence, because the brothers showed up. So the next one we're going to have the sisters to show up, but I think that Babylonia 1 was basically a more romantic tape. Babylonia 2 was more erotic, and it is, but when we poured it and the goddess showed up and although the brothers was up in there, I was watching it today and enjoying it because what was coming out of my mouth, I didn't say. And so it's just amazing. So we did that, but one of the brothers, named Matt Walker came to the lecture. This brother went to Benedict College with me, and we did a conference in New York last week where we introduced a whole bunch of new people, a lot of new guys in the late 20s and early 30s, even two sisters. And so we did this conference, and the tapes and stuff will be made available in about a week or so, and just see all the new talent. See all the new talent and stuff like that that's out here and all, They're young now. Some of them, they real wild because they got that fire energy and stuff, Not unlike myself, you see what I'm saying and all, And I guess I still haven't shed that, that cocky raunchiness and all this uncouth type of behavior. But we did the Babylonian mystery, but this brother named Matt Walker, who was at Benedict College with me in Columbia, South Carolina in the early 80s, he came through and hanged the whole conference, and we was out at this brother Shabazz table on the streets, and we were just laughing at each other saying, who would ever know us two Negroes would be into this particular consciousness on this level, because we remember what we were in college and the moving Animal House. We lived that shit on the black style. Now we lived that, and on the black level of that, you see. Because whatever we did at Benedict College, we go over to the University of South Carolina, where all them white folks were, and there was some real deal Animal House shit going on. But we did live that. We were just laughing and stuff, you know, all the carnal den of iniquity shit that we did at Benedict, and you know, and stuff. So which was interesting here, because something came out that it took a brother from my past to understand something. So I did the lecture. We got him on the camera. He's got a store up in Harlem now to sell all Afrocentric artifacts and all this. In all honesty, he's the great-grandson of Dr. Buzzard. You know, the famous Dr. Buzzard. You see him in the movie The Midnight of, for people that don't know, they documented him in Clint Eastwood's movie, what's that, The Garden of Midnight? And Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. They had a woman that was on there, this shaman sister, and she was round the grave of Dr. Buzzard. So I knew the brother, he went back to mystical past. So this brother got some real power, as well as, you know, the Geechee Gullah thing, the Sea Islands, Beaufort, South Carolina, and me being from South Carolina and growing up in a place like Mullins where they had all its roots, and my grandfather even getting killed by roots, and one of my grandmother's sisters. So that shit was prevalent down back in the, you know, still is. So we're at the second installment of the Babylonia lecture, which is some real powerful stuff that go on. And one brother gets up and gives his testimonial on how he watched the lecture and went on blackconscious.com or one of those, what is it, blackplanet.com, and had like 100 hits of women that hit him, the brother named Panic, that hit him within 1 day. And we went to the website and he was showing me just the pictures of these women that just you know, with this energy and all. So I'm just putting a little disclaimer on there and all. We went and showed some of these people on the website. You'll see it in the movie, in the actual lecture. But I'm giving a disclaimer to tell you that you shouldn't get into the Christian thing, because I didn't show no more on their website than what they got in these books on these on the sexual energy. And so it was real fitting and stuff, because I showed that as to counter T.D. Jakes and his bullshit that's coming out, Woman Art Thou Loose movie. Now, so we're doing the opposite. So this tape gets a little graphic. It's still lightweight, but it's a real good tape. But the brother Matt Walker, my boy from Benedict, was there. And after it was cut off, and we should have kept but the tape ran out. We just kept talking after the tape ran out of the lecture. And he came up and said, well, you know there's two Kappas, just like there's two Alphas and two AKAs. And I was like, then he explained what he meant by that. He said, when I was at Benedict, I was invited to a meeting, and some people asked me some questions. And based on how I answered them questions, they'll go, you may leave now. You may stay. Although he was already in the fraternity, you see, it was like, you may leave or you may stay. And which was interesting, because I was online with him getting ready to pledge, and they changed the pledge period from 6 weeks to 6 months, and I'm like, shit, I'm a junior. That means I'll be all in, and they would have to pledge 6 weeks, go home for the summer, and come back and pledge. I said, I'll be a fucking senior. Pledging, I said, no, I can't do this. I didn't pledge, you know, and all, because the next year we started the Honeycomb Hideout and really had some real shit going on, you know, on the Animal House level and stuff, you know, and stuff. So they had to, it was so legendary, so they had to put in the actual freshman girl little digest, stay away from the Honeycomb Hideout, which helped us, because when they said stay away from the Honeycomb Hideout, the women lined up. But we had an infamous party where some football players from University of South Carolina came, and we had this party, and they tore in the front living room floor of my living room. They broke the beam. This, you know, they're just going to tear down the house, so they actually broke the beam. Niggas said, let's see, can we break this floor in? And they actually did. But we had them so drunk, because we had to make that PJ shit, whereas you mix a whole bunch of liquor up in Kool-Aid in a big foot tubs. And we was mixing that grain alcohol, and we just mixed about just all you can think of. Nothing can run a fucking 747. And they were so drunk, they went outside after the damn floor fell in, and they was partying, and we look, it was 300 people on the outside of the house. And we was partying and stuff, and they were so drunk they couldn't even feel the damn cold. It was in December, late November, and man, so anyway, we was talking about all this stuff that we went through. So the brother said, yeah, they invite you to this meeting, and based on what they say in this meeting, determines on your character on whether they'll tell you to stick around and then induct you into the boule, which is the Negro Uncle Tom advisors to the King Society, those people that don't know about that. So he said, I was conscious that I must have said something. They go, oh, this nigga here is not one that will sell out. And so I said, man, that's some shit. I said, okay. So I walked to the bathroom that was up in the, when we was doing the lecture in the brother's house, and the Spirit said, remember, man, you went through a meeting like that also. And I said, wait a minute, hold on. I said, yeah, I said, I got offline. I didn't play. They said, no, you went through a meeting the same year. And I remember what went on. I said, okay, the same guy, the same people that approached him in the meeting, I made the dean's list 2 or 3 semesters in a row. It wasn't really hard. I wasn't really academically astute. But what it was is I was so talented in art till I took 12 hours of art class every semester, and they had to give me A's and B's and shit because they couldn't teach me. So as a result, I made the dean's list 3 semesters in a row. So just by making the dean's list, it was able to jack me into an elite part of the society that the rest of the people in college don't get to see, not unless you pledge. So I went to this meeting, and it was a guy in there that was selling encyclopedias. And the meeting was about 2 hours long, and I said, well, this is kind of interesting here, because he started giving us these serious questions, real serious questions. I'm saying, why is this man drilling us like he's trying to get into our mind just to sell encyclopedias? This is some crazy shit about you can make all this money. But remember, Bill Clinton, that's what he used to do during the summers, sell encyclopedias. So they went around the room, and the first people who made jokes was laughing. They say, you may leave now. They went around the room asking these series of questions. And I was able to stay about an hour into the meeting. And then they got around to me, and they asked me a question, and apparently I answered the question. I must have didn't answer the question of what they wanted to hear. Obviously, it was too conscious. Although I was a damn March Day and Time nigga back then. But we are always conscious all our lives. We just don't know it. So he said, Mr. Hemmitt, you may leave. And I went back to the room, and I said, something bothered me about it. I said, I still find it hard of these rigorous questions this man is asking me just to sell encyclopedias over the summer. And it wasn't until last Sunday I realized on what was happening. The meeting was about 40 people, and it was people from that made the dean's list, and what they was actually doing was they were actually trying to filter out who was going to go in these elite secret societies. You see what I'm saying? So it was one of these surveys or one of these types of things where they was trying to find out who was the right pick to sell out the people. And whatever the question, I can't even remember what the question was. Whatever the question was, I didn't answer it the way they wanted to hear it. Maybe I might have said something too pro-black or too radical. And they said, you may leave. But anyway, what it was is, and the brother brought this to my attention, that yes, there was a meeting, and I was able to partake in the meeting on how they get these niggas from these boule and all these doggone niggas from these secret societies to sell our people out. It's just that the only reason why I was able to do it because I made the fucking dean's list. And they do it mostly on black college campuses. You see, and it was just amazing. And the brother, when he told me about a meeting, and I said, you know, the same guy that was in the fraternity meetings was the same fucking guy that came to the doggone people that made the dean's list. And I was able to witness that, and he brought it back to my memory last week. So this is amazing how this thing goes, how this goes. So let's go on. We got a lot of stuff to cover. and a lot of great information. So we want to pour libations right now. So since the brother bought this, I'm gonna spit twice. You got that Linda, you got the elixir? Bring it up here. And and you know, so this is a good way to get her to get in front of the damn camera and shit, you know. And we do this and all, you know, so we force our ass to bring it on up here. And then you get a good look, you know, you get a good shout out and all this type of thing here. And and stuff, you know. Huh? Yeah, that's good. What's that? Okay, that's good, yeah. So we're going to spit this and we're going to get down with this corn liquor. Oh, are you giving me this, man? Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. We might have a Halloween party. You never know.